All right, hello everybody and welcome. My name is Andy Osborne. I'm the Recruiting and Outreach Manager for the LSU College of Engineering. This event tonight is the Civil Engineering virtual event. So those of you here, hopefully you have a pretty strong interest in civil engineering, or maybe just trying to gather a little bit more information as you make your degree selection. Now that we're just a few weeks out from the start of your first fall semester at LSU, I work with you guys throughout the whole sort of application and admission process and decision. And so it's always really, really nice to see those of you here at the tail end as you really are getting close to finally starting your college experience. So I just want to say again, welcome as you are getting closer and closer to that start date. And we're glad that you're joining us tonight to get some more specific information about civil engineering. Hopefully you've also gotten a lot of communication, maybe attended a few different events that the college has provided over the summer, as well as the university with orientation and advising and putting your schedule together. Most all of you at this point should have a schedule of classes for the fall. Hopefully you've had a chance to also address any questions that you have about that with our student services counselors. But if not, this is the perfect time to get some additional information directly from the undergraduate advisor in civil engineering. So you'll definitely want to take advantage of this opportunity to talk with Dr. Morthy, who will be doing most of the presenting this evening, and then also one of our current students in civil engineering, Emily Roan. Before I turn it over to Dr. Morthy to start giving you a lot of really great information about the program, I did also just want to mention that I'll be here throughout the event and be available in the chat. So we really, really encourage you guys to use the chat to ask questions. We had one student introduce themselves there, so if you can, the rest of you take a moment just to introduce yourself with name and hometown and any specific interests you have within civil engineering or just LSU in general, that would be fantastic. We will definitely try to use whatever information and questions you ask there to get you the types of answers that you need. So take a minute to introduce yourself. Feel free to submit questions throughout the whole session. We'll still have a few minutes at the tail end for kind of an open Q&A if anything else pops up at that point. So hopefully, again, we will be able to get you a lot of information as you're getting close to the start of your fall semester. I will go ahead and turn it over now to Dr. Suresh Morthy, who's the undergraduate advisor for civil engineering.
Thanks, Andrew. Hi, everybody. Welcome to LSU. Hopefully you guys have scheduled your classes for the fall. I'm here as the civil engineering undergraduate advisor. So I'm going to talk a little bit here about civil engineering, things you might have heard, things you might have seen, but also elaborate on things that you've seen specifically with respect to curriculum and opportunities that you might have as you pursue your civil engineering degree. Most of you are sort of may have seen that one sheeter that you see on the screen, which we send out to incoming students, which sort of summarizes what we do in civil engineering. So civil engineering, at least when contrasted to other engineering disciplines, is involved in the design, installation, maintenance of large infrastructure systems. Operational word is large when compared to other engineering disciplines. And we work on broadly 5 areas. The classical area that the structures part, designing, building, and maintaining bridges and dams, and transportation, which usually students think of as highways and roadways, but also modeling large traffic systems, how they behave, is something that's done in civil engineering. The students are less familiar with the fact that we also work in water resources, which is maintain large rivers, levees, canals, and such. And Emily, who's here with us today, who's doing an internship, and I'll let her talk to you, and you talk to her as well about the kind of water resource systems that she's working on as part of her internship. The fourth subdiscipline that I've listed there is geotechnical, which is, I guess, an engineering way of describing soil systems. So now how soil systems behave by themselves, but more critically, how that soil system behaves under a structure in the foundation of a building or next to a water resource on the coast is the fourth subdiscipline. And geodesy, or surveying, which is geographically mapping large land areas, which essentially naturally builds into all your other civil engineering subdisciplines. And if you are to sort of think about those subdisciplines that I just listed, all those infrastructure systems are sort of critically affected here in the state. And we tend to draw that as inspiration to build the civil engineering major. And we like to think of this as sort of a living lab, if you will, the state, the resources it provides to develop, to study those systems, which are going to be applied, I guess, all over the world. And the other part that you have there in the page that you see is your capstone senior design experience, which you do as your design project final semester. And those design projects in civil engineering tend to draw from systems here in Louisiana. So we have 5 separate project classes, as we call them. The water resource project, model the flood, 2016 flood in Livingston Parish last semester. The bridge design project usually designs a bridge somewhere in Louisiana. The transportation project works on broadening highways, roadways within the state. And we also have a geotechnical project, which is going to work in soil systems here in the state itself. So the bigger synopsis of that one-sheeter is my slide here, which I'll try to go through hopefully. Yeah. So that first slide I sort of talked about with respect to the one-sheeter itself, what we do in civil engineering, right? We design and maintain large systems, infrastructure systems, which could be in any one of those 5 subdisciplines, which I have listed that as examples, right? So we might be working on buildings, but we might also be designing airports, water supply systems, and that naturally leads to job opportunities, study in environmental engineering, geotechnical engineering. And here I've talked here also briefly about the job market. We have traditionally for civil engineers 2 big job markets. One is the government itself. Large infrastructure projects originate in the government. So the Department of Transportation, Army Corps of Engineers are major hires for civil engineers. But the project is so large that usually it gets subcontracted to structural design firms, or broadly called structural design firms, but I'll say design firms, which are doing part of the project. So those design firms here in Baton Rouge, in New Orleans, in Houston, I'll say all over the Southeast are getting work from the government, and they're looking for civil engineers to execute the work itself. And also here these are sort of traditional civil engineering hires, but any large infrastructure system, any industrial complex, say a rig in the Gulf or a petrochemical complex here in the state, is looking for civil engineers to maintain those large infrastructure systems itself. So they are also hires of civil engineers. Department has been ranked consistently in the top 50s. Is a very successful department, both with respect to, I guess, the curriculum that you primarily see, but also with respect to research opportunities. Yeah, a fairly big department, and then which has been growing, I would say, quite consistently over the past few years. So it's been steady growth for us here in civil engineering itself. So I talked about the main subdisciplines here that you have that we are going to look at in greater detail in this presentation. So structural would be buildings, water resources would be large water bodies, transportation would be large transportation systems, geotechnical would be large soil systems, and geodesy, as we call it, surveying, large surveying systems itself. Yeah. Right, the curriculum, 120 credit hours for graduation, which at least from the civil engineering department perspective was something that we wanted to implement so that students can graduate uh, within that 4 years. And since we've implemented that for the past, I don't know, 3-4 years now, and we're looking at the results of the modified curriculum, we see students graduating within 4 to 5 years, I'd say, on an average is what we see as the time for graduation for the students. The general education component is common to any major within the university. So it's a mixture of classes that the university thinks that all majors should have at least an introduction to. But for us in civil engineering, those math and physics classes are especially critical. And when I discuss the curriculum with respect to the flowchart, I'll show you what classes we think of as especially critical on the general education side for civil engineering. To a certain degree, also the chemistry class is important for civil engineers. Yeah, we are going to see the flowchart. The flowchart is going to have core classes in all the 5 subdisciplines. Core classes are required classes that all civil engineering majors will have to take to get a civil engineering degree. But we also have, going into your final year, electives in each of those civil engineering subdisciplines. So that that provides you with an opportunity to specialize after you've done your required coursework in one particular or more than one particular subdiscipline of your interest. And that elective list is fairly exhaustive for the department. So that also leads to ideas of civil engineering students doing minors or concentrations within those subdisciplines. Yeah, and that culminates in your major design experience that I talked about, your civil engineering design project itself that usually you do in the last semester before graduation, right? So this part I need to figure out what this is. All right, so that's sort of here your civil engineering flowchart itself. What you see there, that you're going to be sort of, you probably registered for some of those classes in the first semester for civil engineering. So those are in the first 2 semesters, I'll say, are your general education classes itself. So classes here in math and also in geology, which is sort of thought of as a general education science class, are sort of critical for civil engineering students, and also that first chemistry class is sort of critical for civil engineering students. And that first math class, first calculus class leads to the second calculus class in your second semester, right? Second chemistry class, but also your first physics class. And those 3 classes marked there in bold font is what we refer to as the critical part, at least for civil engineers. So classes that you need to get completed as soon as possible. What you see in the flowchart here is what we think of as a possible path towards graduation, or sort of an ideal path, I'll say, towards graduation. It doesn't necessarily happen that everybody does that first calculus class in the first semester. And some of you have actually gotten credit coming out of your high schools for that first calculus class. So you might be a little bit ahead, but typically, on an average, I'll say, this is sort of the path that we expect civil engineering students to follow But I'll also say going a little bit off that path is not going to critically affect you as long as you come back to that path in time. Yeah. And those first 2 semesters here are more on the general education side. As you've probably seen in your orientation, then you are in the university college in the first year. We as civil engineering faculty get to advise you only after you have cleared that first math class, Math 1550. Right? There are some more requirements, but the main requirement is Math 1550. After you've cleared that, then you essentially become a civil engineering major. From the university college, you come to the civil engineering department, and then we start advising you on civil engineering classes itself, right? And those classes sort of start that from your 3rd semester in your flowchart itself. So some of those classes, you can sort of just read the name of those classes, right? So that class, the statics class, materials class, structures class, that's the concrete class, are all required classes. The structures subdiscipline, right? Here it's not marked as critical because they are the most difficult or most interesting classes in civil, but simply because you have to do 1 class every semester to finish up that required concrete class in the 6th semester, so that when you go to your final year, you are able to take whatever electives you want in the structures subdiscipline, because most structures electives would require that concrete class itself. But we also have classes, required classes in water resources. So that class fluids, that water resources class, is hydraulics class, the hydrology class that you see there are all required classes in the water resources side. And then on the geodesy, surveying, and transportation side, those 2 classes that you see there, right? The surveying class and the highway engineering class, 3500, 3600 are your required classes. And then on your geotech side, whole bunch of prerequisites that we'll talk about a little bit. Your chemistry classes, geology class, and your fluids class used as foundation for your geotech class, your soils class, as I used to call it, geotech 1, C3300, and the associated lab. So those are sort of some of the required classes in your subdisciplines that are interspersed here with classes from your gen ed side that you might continue to do into your sophomore, junior years itself. In the final year, you do your electives, that you see that we only require 4 electives. That's your project elective. So including the project elective, we only require 4 electives for the civil engineering major. But something that I will talk about in this presentation, you can always look to do a whole lot more electives as part of a concentration, part of a minor. And we do offer a whole lot of electives, which I think is the next slide here, which also I have. So that's the elective list, right? First off, right at the top is our basic science labs, which was there in your first semester of your civil engineering curriculum. So it doesn't happen often because nowadays we do the orientation, we tell you don't take any basic science lab. But basic science lab doesn't mean you can take any science lab and make it count towards your basic science lab requirement in your gen ed. Yeah, for civil engineering students, it has to be one of those 3 labs. And whenever you are taking a course, just like in the flow chart, there is an arrow pointing from one course to the other. All courses have what we refer to as prerequisites or co-requisites. Co-requisites essentially means you can do the co-requisite class and that class at the same semester. Prerequisite means you have to finish that class in the previous semester. So just remember, just because you come to a particular semester and you're ready to take a class, you haven't finished the prereq, you will not be able to take it. And you should be ready to take the co-req. And those basic science labs, that chemistry lab requires you to be in the 2nd chemistry class. Your geology lab requires you to be in the corresponding geology class, geology 1001 class. And the physics lab requires you to be in your first physics class. And those are sort of things to keep in mind, right? Usually students coming in the first semester are doing that geology lab because they're also doing the geology class. But if you want to do the chemistry lab or the physics lab, which is typically in the second semester of your flowchart, that's where you want to be. Yeah. And then you see that big list of electives that I was talking about. Even though you just require 4 of those classes, then we have in each subdiscipline, you can just read the name of the class. Geotech 2, Geotech 3, obviously for the geotech subdiscipline. Steel design is from structures. Pre-stress concrete is from structures. Design of highways and airports is from transportation, as is the next 2 electives. So you have a whole bunch of electives, design, analysis, technical, as we call that, in all those subdisciplines. And that's your major design experience, is your project class. And all those electives have prerequisites. So I guess something that works only as you go towards your final year. So those electives have prerequisites. So you want to have at least, by the time you come to your final year of your civil engineering degree, then you want to have finished those corresponding prerequisites, the required classes in that corresponding subdiscipline, right? So our major design experience is a set of 3 classes. The first class, the Intro to Civil Engineering class, is a class that you do right at the beginning in your second, third semester, right? And what that class, C2700, does for you is it sort of introduces you to your civil engineering subdisciplines more as in a qualitative way, I'll say. Gives you an introduction to what you will end up doing in the final 2 semesters. So before you go through that rigor of all those coursework in your math, physics classes, as well as in your each of your subdisciplines, that introduction class just gives you the big picture of why you're doing all those classes till you get to your major design experience. And then we have for our actual project class 2 classes, a class that's called Professional Issues C4750, also sometimes referred to as Conceptual Design Pre-Project class. And that class you take in your penultimate semester usually. That class is sort of gives you the common things that we have in all our project classes, but also sets up the group for your project class in your final semester, and also conceptually design your project in that first semester in that CE 4750 class. And then that's followed by the capstone design class, where the emphasis is on group work, where you design a civil engineering systems, which invariably is a system from the state, right, as a group, as you lead, as you complete your major itself. Right. God, I don't know if I would try this again. So what that is showing you is on the gen ed side, that slide is showing you on the gen ed side classes that are sort of relatively more important for civil engineering students, right? So all the classes that are sort of shaded there are classes from the gen ed side, but the ones that are shaded in brown are more important. So when you read the flow chart, what you want to understand when you read that flow chart is simply what class is a prerequisite, what class is required for another class. So if I were to take that geology class, second chemistry class, that's required somewhere down the line. So that's that class. Hopefully you guys can see my cursor. That class is required down the line for my geotech class, C3300. And therefore, within your gen ed classes, that's a more important class for civil engineering students. I already talked about the math and the physics classes. They are required for that statics class in civil engineering, and statics itself is required for a whole bunch of classes in civil engineering. Yeah. And then the experimental statistics class, which is the class that you see that class, God is going to do the same thing again. God, silly problems with this thing. God, I lost the whole thing.
I think I still have the slides if you'd like me to go ahead and share those.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, I don't know why it's acting.
Okay.
Yeah. I sort of completely lost my picture itself here. I don't know if you guys can see me, but I can't see anything here.
Right.
You want me to stop the share here, Andrew?
Yes, please.
There you go. This is your, but then on that final semester, you have a whole bunch of electives that I showed you, analysis, design electives on the structure side. And we also have a capstone design project, that last course. You see that in your 8th semester, 2 possible classes that are structures projects. So one is your design project. The other one is, one is your bridge design project. The other one is your structural design project, both of which are sort of thought of as classes in the structures subdiscipline itself. Next slide is going to show you sort of the corresponding ideas here for on the water resources side. So on the water resources side, required classes in brown there are your first fluids class C2200, and then you have associated with that C2200 a lab as well, C2250. But then on the water resources side, required classes include that EVEDGE 3200, which is your hydraulics class, what we refer to as water resources, your hydrology class, your C4200 class, right? And also to a certain degree, the wastewater class, EVEDGE 3110, is also sort of in the water resources side, is a required class within the civil engineering subdiscipline. And then on the elective side, we have a bunch of classes: groundwater, design of hydrologic systems is a project class that we have. And then also on the tech side, on the design side, we have classes that are on the water resources side. So those are the pink classes that you see on your final semester, leading to your hydrologic design project, which is your C4200. I'm sorry, C4200, not 4200, C4420 in the final semester itself, right? The next slide there shows you sort of the corresponding required classes in the transportation geodesy side. So your transportation project, if you will, in the final semester is your C4760, even though it's called civil engineering design. It's sort of a transportation project. And we have marked there some of the required classes that you are going to take. So you're going to do your first surveying class, C3500, as well as your corresponding highway engineering class, C3600, are required classes that you'll have to take before you can do that project class. Now, if you sort of see the curriculum here, I would say on the geodesy transportation, which are sort of very closely linked to one another, as well as on the geotech side, we don't have too many required classes. So what we ended up doing is putting that on the 7th semester, a required design elective list of 4 classes that you can possibly do as a required design elective. 2 are from the transportation side, geometric design of highways and airports and pavement design are both transportation classes, which is marked as the pink that you see there, C4670. And I think the other one, I don't remember the number here, geometric designs of highways and airports, but yeah, is also a required design elective. And also beyond that, you have other analysis design electives in the transportation side itself. And I'll talk to you, there is separate transportation minor itself within the department, which allows you to take additional classes on the transportation side. And I think the next slide is sort of shows you the path, if you will, for the geotech project, right? And the geotech project is sort of a new project class that we've started here from the last semester. So the required classes on the geotech side will be your first geotech class, Geotech 1, C3300, the associated lab, C3350. And since we just have one required class, we have put 2 design electives as possible choices if you're interested in geotechnical engineering in the 7th semester. So those are your C4300, which is your Geotech 2, and C4310, which is your Geotech 3, what we refer to as shallow foundations and deep foundations are possible elective classes if you're interested in geotech. And we have other geotech classes as well. Coastal geotechniques is sort of a popular class on the analysis design class. And then finally your capstone design project, C4330, that you see that is a new class that we have added on the geotech side. So that sort of gives you here a flavor, I would say, the last 4 slides of how your required classes in each of those subdisciplines, which are themselves related to some other class from your general education requirements, fit into your elective classes, your project classes in the final year of your civil engineering degree itself. I think the next slide here, let me see, right, lists here of facilities, which I'll let you read here, a whole bunch of facilities that we have been constantly updating in the various subdisciplines. So the driving simulator that you saw in that one-sheeter, that first slide that we showed you, essentially is something that we have added on as a possible lab. It's a very popular lab, especially for some of you who are coming in when you're trying to decide which major you want to choose. But we also have an asphalt lab, environmental lab, Walmart lab as we call it, yeah, which we have sort of added on. What I'll also say here is there are a lot of opportunities, research opportunities for civil engineering students. So there are a lot of centers, which may be the next slide here, that are sort of connected. I talked about the minors first, but there are a lot of centers that I'll talk about maybe in a future slide. No, we don't. Yeah, I'll talk about the minor first, but I'll just give them an overview. So there are a lot of centers within the university that work a lot with civil engineering students, and those also provide you with opportunities for internships, co-ops, research experience, I'll say, in broad terms. Now, like I mentioned, we only need 4 electives, right? So since we have a very exhaustive elective list, then the Department of Civil Engineering provides additional coursework, additional concentration in a subdiscipline. And within the civil engineering department major, we have 4 possible minors that you can do. So you can do a structural engineering minor. Some of those courses that you do for your major can be used for the minor, but usually minor will need 1 or 2 additional classes. Similarly, transportation minor, right? And then we also have minor in geodesy or in surveying. And the last minor listed there is environmental. We have a separate major program in environmental, but if you're not an environmental major, if you're a civil engineering major, then you can also get an environmental engineering minor. And typically those minors, at least in civil engineering, work well with the majors. So you're going to get some of the coursework for the minors when you do your major. And then with an additional 1 or 2 electives, you can also get the minor. Of course, minor here is not restricted to civil engineering department. You can get minor in almost any department as you complete your major at LSU, right? So the next slide here is on advising, I think, yeah, right? So like I mentioned, you're admitted into the university college. So beyond the first semester, then beyond this talk, I'll say, you probably are not going to see me until you come to the civil engineering department. Because primary advising is done that by university college over the first year. Any informal advising that you need from me, feel free to contact me by email. And then we can set up a time, an appointment to discuss anything that you need to discuss. So things that we usually discuss once you come into the civil engineering, into your senior college, then you will have a dedicated advisor who's going to advise you on curriculum, and I'll say professional development, career counsel, and also on college life, any questions that you have. Remember here, there are 2 sort of advisors, 2 sort of counselors. One is from the department side, and that advisor stays with you till you graduate. He's going to be constantly advising you, sort of updating what happened previous semester, what you should be doing in the next semester. But you also have a counselor from the college side, from the College of Engineering. Everybody in the College of Engineering gets their own counselor. And usually the College of Engineering counselor is more towards, I would say, what I've marked that as college life. Yeah. So college life could be anything, but usually, something with regards to a scholarship, what happened to a gen ed class that you took somewhere else, that kind of a thing. Usually you can come and talk to us about it, but we'll probably send you to your College of Engineering counselor in that. But those first 2, civil engineering curriculum and career counsel, then, we like to advise you on a continuous basis as you go through your civil engineering curriculum itself. And then the next slide there, what did it go to here? Right, so that I guess goes to now, I guess, segue to Emily's slide, Emily's set of slides. So we have a very active civil engineering student body. Yeah, the American Society of Civil Engineering student chapter is very, very active. So, and that's a student chapter, right? So that means it's exclusively run by you all, anybody who chooses to participate in the American Society of Civil Engineering. So you're very strongly encouraged to go and participate in it. And instead of having to hear me talk from a faculty's perspective of what the curriculum is, if you go to the student chapter, you talk to your fellow peers, your seniors, then they can give you a first-hand view of everything. So that includes what courses you should be doing, what the curriculum structure should be for you. They can give you advice on professional development, career counsel, because the American Society of Civil Engineering, at least over the past 2-3 years, maybe not last semester because of the special circumstance, but they've been organizing their own job fair, which sort of becomes critically important that you do side by side with your coursework. They also have student competitions, right? That will sort of, at least when you start in your first, second year, gives you a flavor of what you're going to do as a civil engineering student. Yeah. Right. That's fine here. Ethan, yeah, I think it's being recorded. So yeah, you can watch the recording. Yeah. So then that's something that you want to strongly consider joining so that you can get a bigger picture of what civil engineering students are essentially doing. Yeah. So before I let Emily talk about American Society of Civil Engineering, there's a couple of other things that I mentioned, which I guess are future slides here. But one thing I wanted to mention was there are a whole lot of centers within the universities that are intimately connected with the civil engineering department. So the Louisiana Transportation Research Center is the Department of Transportation liaison to the university. And we have a lot of people in LTRC, as it's called, who are working in the civil engineering department. We also have a geoinformatics center, larger center at LSU. A lot of faculty there in civil engineering are also working. So you have all these opportunities with different centers. There are transportation centers as well within the university that provide you with research opportunities. That's what you want to do, right? Research / internship opportunities, co-op opportunities, I'll say, that are possible within the university itself. Yeah, so that's one thing I wanted to mention. The other thing I also wanted to mention is please go to the civil engineering website. So I usually go there, ce.lsu.edu, right? There is that additional information, both about curriculum experiences of graduated students from civil engineering. That should give you the bigger picture on civil engineering itself. I'll go ahead and I'll stop there, and I think right in the end we'll have some time. If you have any more questions, sorry about my computer crashing like that, but I'll let Emily take over here and talk a little bit about the student chapter itself. Yeah.
Right, I'll share my screen. Andrew, can you stop it? There we go. Let's see. There we go. Can you all just see the?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. Okay, so as Dr. Morley said, my name is Emily Roan, and I am president of the American Society of Civil Engineers on campus. We also have Kai. Kai, are you still here?
She is.
Kai, do you want to say hello? No? He may not have a mic. I don't know if he does or not. But we also have Kai. He is also an officer for our student chapter. I am currently a senior in civil engineering, graduating in this upcoming December with a minor in structural engineering. So if you have any questions structural, I know a lot about that. But if you have any other questions about anything else, I know a lot about that as well, just because with ASCE, I know a lot of people that I can put you in contact with for other specific disciplines. American Society of Civil Engineers is a national society dedicated to the civil engineering profession. ASCE publishes design standards and research. They supply continuing education for professionals. They host conferences, and in general, they just provide a place for civil and environmental engineers to meet other civil and environmental engineers. This brings me to, let's see. There we go. So we have chapters and branches across the United States, and then we also have some in other countries as well. And then ASCE also has different subgroups for each discipline of civil engineering, and those are listed out down there in the little shields. Our student chapter, we host meetings every other week, which are a great way to meet other students in your major, even before you take your first civil engineering class. These connections are great resources when you're forming study groups for your gen eds or other major classes, such as Dr. Morley's dynamics and strengths classes. We also typically have a professional from a local company. They present at our meetings on either their company or a project that they're working on, or they give us career advice or just anything that they think college students need to know before graduating, or something that they would have liked to hear before they graduated. This will allow you to learn about civil engineering and like what the companies actually do and different types of companies, as Dr. Morley was describing in the beginning. This also helps you narrow down your career path and choosing a minor or just what electives you want to focus on to decide what part of civil engineering you're interested in. ASCE, our chapter, also organizes socials and field trips, and then some of those other things that I will mention in the next upcoming slides. First up is, these are some of our companies that have spoken to us in the past year or so. The companies come and talk, and then after they finish presenting, they have this kind of Q&A, and then you can go up and talk to them after their presentation is over. It's a great way to get contacts and just learn what to talk about with professionals when you're looking for an internship or a job. I am currently an intern at Stantec, and I got that internship because I went up and talked to the presenter at one of our meetings this past semester at the beginning. And so, as Dr. Morley mentioned, I am working on a few water resources projects. Right now we're designing 4 pump stations for a flood protection system, which are 2,000 cubic feet per second pump stations. So that is a big project. So multiply that by 4, that's 4 pump stations with all with 2,000 cubic feet per second. And so we are designing the site layout, the pump station building itself, the flow of the water through the pump station. There's a bridge, there are sluice gates, lift gates, stuff like that. So it's not just a water project. We also have structural and geotech. I've been sitting in on some of the design meetings, and it is a full, we have mechanical, electrical, just everything that you could think of is going into this type of project. And so it's been great to just get that experience with some of the other disciplines, as well as what I'm focusing on is the structural. On to our next slide. That was a little bit of a tangent, but here we go. ASCE Student Mentor Program. We match underclassmen with upperclassmen to promote professional relationships during and after college. Just to give you any assistance that you need, whether you want help scheduling or just you need other academic advice on whether to drop a class or what classes to take at certain times. This is the QR code for our group chat for that. So if you would like to join, you can scan that with your smartphone or just take a picture of it and scan it later. It is on GroupMe. So if, I don't know if y'all have used that before, but a lot of college clubs use GroupMe. I'll give you a second to scan that or take a picture. And then if I am going too fast, just let me know, or if you have any questions. We also do career fairs each semester, so one in the fall, one in the spring. These are civil and environmental engineering specific, so we have about 20 to 30 companies, sometimes local, usually in the Gulf area, but then sometimes they'll be from farther away. I know last career fair back in the fall, we had at least one from the New York area, which was interesting. They had a few internship positions that were open. These career fairs are, again, a great way to just talk to professionals. So as a freshman, I joined ASCE my second semester, and I went to the career fair. I didn't really need an internship. I didn't really think I was going to get an internship, but I talked to a few companies. I met a person from this company, Fugro, which is a geotechnical firm here in Baton Rouge, and I actually got an internship over the summer. That was a great experience, but it also led me to find out that I don't really want to do geotech. And so it's internships and career fairs and talking to things like that are another great way to figure out what kind of career you want to focus in. The career fairs also have meet and greets before, so you can talk to the companies there in a more casual setting. So the top picture on our left is one of our meet and greets at walk-ons. And so it was just, not only do you get to meet other companies, but you get to practice dressing professional and talking to your peers in a more professional manner instead of just being in class with them. Let's see what else about the career fair. Also, there's free food at both the career fair and the meet and greet. And I keep saying that because when you start college, you will understand the importance of free food. I know I have, it's amazing. We also do community service events. So we have, over the past semester, it was really our focus to reach out more into the community. We partnered with the Baton Rouge branch of ASCE, so more of the real life civil engineering professionals. And we went to local elementary and middle schools and did certain engineering activities with them. So as you can see in the bottom 2 pictures on the right, we have a Jell-O Tupperware full of Jell-O, and then we give the kids marshmallows and toothpicks and have them build structures. And then we give the Jell-O a nice shake to show them like earthquake and the importance of having a strong foundation in your design. What I love about our community service is that we are reaching out to kids and telling them like, hey, engineering is an option. Like you can grow up to be that. I know sometimes kids are always like, astronauts or rock stars is what I want to grow up to be as, but we show them like, hey, engineering's fun and it's a pretty cool thing. Another one of our community services is we go to the local animal shelter, and we usually do that around finals week. So it's a great de-stressor as you're getting ready to go into finals week. You just go around and you play with some animals. So it's pretty fun. Onto our competition teams. Is Meredith on? No? Okay. We have a few competition teams with our ASCE. We have Concrete Canoe team. Again, here's a QR code. If you like what I'm talking about for Concrete Canoe, you can join that group chat as well. So the Concrete Canoe team gets a set of rules for their competition, and then we design and fabricate a canoe out of concrete that floats, and then they get out there and they race it, and it's very fun to watch. I am not on the Concrete Canoe team, but the captain last year, Belle, is one of my good friends, and so I was there helping out quite a bit. The two pictures on the right are from Pour Day, and so they did a very light design this semester, or this past year, so that they could actually shoot it out of that concrete sprayer, and it ended up being very nice. We, however, did not get to compete, but it's a very nice canoe to look at, even if you don't get to race it. The picture on the bottom on the left is from our regional competition. I guess that's 2 competitions ago. I went with one of our other competition teams and was watching the canoe races, and they actually flipped the boat over, which was hilarious. And then another time the canoe got T-boned, so another canoe went like straight into the side of our canoe. And our canoe was a tank that year. It did not have a single dent. The other canoe had a crack down the middle, but ours was fine. So some great designs. You really get to meet a lot of good people. I know most of these people, we are still talking to this day. Yeah, it's a great way. It's a lot of fun. Again, if you want that QR code, you can go ahead and take a picture of it to join the group chat. And we'll keep you updated with the meeting times at the beginning of the year. And I'll make sure that group chat gets handed over to the proper captain next semester. We also have the surveying team. This is another competition that we have coming up, or each year. One cool fact about the surveying team is they usually partner with a local company to give them tips on surveying. So it's another great way to reach out to specific, get to know and talk to certain people at companies and have that contact when you're starting to look for internships or jobs or just any professional advice. You need someone to look over your resume or just give you interview practice. It's good connections, and everyone that we've come into contact with these competition teams and the ASCE meetings, they're all very nice and they're very open to helping our students out, mainly because they were in these positions and they know what we're dealing with. So surveying is a lot of fun, and that's the QR code for the group chat as well. If you see a QR code, it's going to be for the group chat for that page, because I feel like I'm repeating that very often. Next is our AISC Steel Bridge team. So this is in partnership with ASCE. It's not necessarily part of ASCE, but most of our students are from ASCE. I was captain this past year, and then I've been on the team for 2 years now. We went to, I guess I should describe the Steel Bridge team. Our focus is to design, fabricate, and compete with a scaled steel bridge. So you can see our steel bridge up in the top right corner. It's about 20 to 22 feet long. Ours is usually 4 to 4.5 to 5 feet high, and then 4 feet wide. And there is a whole rule book set of qualifications, I guess, what's design criteria, I guess is a way to put it. And we design every single piece of that bridge. And the bridge, part of the competition is being able to build it in a timed manner. So as you can see in the second picture from the right on the bottom, that is our bridge broken down into about, I think that bridge was about 70 pieces, and we could fabricate it, or not fabricate, we could put it together in about 10 minutes, which is pretty cool. I have a video of it I'll show in a second. We do all the welding, and Josh over there is actually building the cart right now, or in that picture he's building the cart. Yeah, pretty fun stuff. We went to nationals last time we competed, so 2 summers ago. There's a QR code if you would like to join. I will switch over and show that video real quick so you can know what I'm talking about. Okay, can you see that?
Yes, we can. Starting.
Okay. So this is us fabricating the bridge. I'm gonna speed it up a bit. So this build is very designed, very coordinated. It's almost like a dance. Like every single movement's been reviewed and gone over multiple times. There's a river down the middle that you're not allowed to step on. So between those blue lines, you can't step in there into the river. You can only hold one piece at a time. Everything has to be bolted together. What else? Sometimes you're not allowed to use, ooh, it almost got, I forgot about that. Sometimes you're not allowed to use power tools, but this we were allowed, so we'll try to start drilling in soon. And then the bridge is judged based on a few qualities. So one is the time build, another is how much you deflect when you put 2,500 pounds on it. So they will roll the dice to see where the bridge gets loaded. They put down a grating and then put weight on it up to 2,500 pounds. This bridge that we were building in the video only deflected, I think it was 1/4 of an inch, maybe 1/3 of an inch. But that is just, it was a great bridge. Really loved, that's almost my child right there in that video. It's kind of nerdy, but you know. I learned so much just from being on this competition team for 1 year. I had not taken steel design or any kind of fancy indeterminate design classes. So just being able to watch as some of the older students go through the design process and talking about steel design, I am just looking at how everything is fabricated in our little shop on campus. It's just eye-opening, and these guys are some of my best friends now. Great way to meet people, and the innovation that went into this bridge is something that I could talk about for hours. But I know you're probably getting tired of me talking about a bridge. But you know, I know the bridge knows. I'll go ahead and stop there. Okay, I'm hoping you can see the presentation now.
Yep.
Oh, and that's it. Okay. So here's our group chat, our main ASCE group chat. So if you'd like to get more notifications about when we have our meetings next semester and what will be going on with that, with any changes due to some restrictions on size and everything, we will make sure to contact you for that. Any questions? If not, I'll pass it over.
Yeah, thank you, Emily, for all of that. It's always helpful to see what current students are doing and kind of see the outside of classroom experience as well. I think this brings us to the end of our sort of prepared information for you guys tonight. So really at this point, it's whatever questions you have coming to mind. maybe something that we covered, you know, sparked something, or maybe we covered everything. But if you do have any questions, do go ahead and submit those in the chat so we can help you with those in these last few minutes that we're here together. If there aren't any questions, or you feel like you've gotten everything that you need, you can also go ahead and let yourself out. I do want to go ahead and put up this slide, which also has Dr. Morthy's email on it, just in case you need to reach out to him for any specific questions. I don't have my email on a slide, but you can certainly reach out to me as well for kind of more general things, maybe less specific to civil engineering. And my email is aosborn@lsu.edu. So always feel free to reach out to us. You know, we're here to kind of give advice and help you through whatever processes that you have. And it looks like Emily has also put the ASCE email down there, which is asce@lsu.edu, if you want to learn more about all of what she was just covering as far as what that student organization does, which is quite a bit. So definitely reach out to us. Dr. Morthy, is there anything else that you wanted to add or say before we wrap things up?
Nothing else, yeah. Thanks for coming, yeah. And like I said, first year, it feels like you guys are a university college sort of detached from your major. But if you need to contact me always, yeah. I'm ready to at least give you informal advice about anything you need, yeah.
And I personally have access to the ASCE. So if you ever want to reach out to me, get more information, or if you missed a QR code or want to be added to a group chat, you can always just hit up that ASCE email and I will reach out to you or reach back.